Well, we've gotten another package from Vevor. This is, I believe, our third one. This is the first one we've gotten that had looks like really bad damage, and they even, whoever they is, probably FedEx, because that's who it was shipped by, patched over. Some damage here too. Don't know if inside it's damaged. The back side's okay. I took the label off, but this one was shipped FedEx, and our others have been shipped UPS. Now, I don't know if that's it or not, but again, the package is damaged, has damage to it, and this was supposed to arrive 3 days ago almost, and it got delayed, and so I'm not too happy about that. I can't blame that on Vevor, but just a note. The other thing to note is that this definitely was outside in damage. So this happened in transit. You can see that it wasn't something from the inside that poked out. It was something from the outside that tried to poke in. And inside, first opening it, looks okay. Installation instructions. Well, I would call them assembly instructions, but like that. Looking at the installation or manual, this, we mentioned that it opens funny, or relatively to the way we normally read. It also reads, instead of reading right to left. When you use this, instead of reading left to right, like normally I do, it's top to bottom, up to corner, and then down again. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And according to this, the first thing you're doing is putting on the side pieces on the top. Then you assemble the adjustment pieces together. Then you assemble the adjustment pieces to the top. Then you assemble the bracing for the top, which is also the guide for going up and down. And then the next thing would be to assemble the structural legs. Then assemble the bracing for the legs to those legs. Also, you're going to put the wheels on up here. Then you put the tabletop onto the structural center brace, and then you slide that into the legs that you put together already. So fairly simple, straightforward. One of the things we thought was interesting was the note. If the quantity of parts shown in the manual is the actual usage, and unused parts are spares, that you could get actually spares. Mostly what we've read from reviews is pieces were missing. So to ease assembly and to verify, inside they tell you how much of each piece of hardware you're supposed to have. And not surprisingly, or surprisingly, we have exactly what we're supposed to have. Now, I don't know if that includes the possibility of some of these being spares, but we should have at least enough and not have to run to the hardware store once we start assembling this. So we'll begin at 1. We mic'd all the metal, and the heaviest piece at 0.008 or 2.2 millimeters are the 2 end adjustment brackets. The main table, the side braces for it, they're all .006, as are the ends on the up and down pieces. It looks like it's plated. It's hard to tell for sure. We did notice that the nuts that fasten the tabletop to the end pieces had discoloration, looks like oil or stuff. I'm thinking it's because they pushed these in and spot welded them after the plating was on, and so that's what caused the discoloration. Yes, these have small, looks like small spot welds. Probably a machine did it. Just clamped it and spotted it. I'm not sure where they did this, but according to the installation instructions and the diagram on the front, the side pieces have a bend on them, and you're supposed to put that to the outside and the bottom. However, if you do that, since these are fastened with wing nuts, you can't put this in the full up position because you can't tighten the wing nuts. If, however, you flip it around the other way so that that edge is on the inside and pull it up, you lose a little bit of travel. And you can't put it, flip it over and put it this way. Well, you could, but then you have full travel, but then you have this edge that you're running into, so you don't have a square backstop. You can't use it for lining up pieces. We're going to put we're going to add a piece to the top of this, but right now we're pre-assembling and we're going to use it a little bit. So you could do it like this, but then, like I said, you got that edge that you run into. So since I want to be able to use the adjustment nuts, I'm going to put it in, flip these over and put these on basically inside out, and then they'll be able to drop down. So we've assembled the side pieces, the up and down rails, backstops, the up and down backstops. You get two of the ends and one of the long length, one of the long sides. But next to assemble is the tilt mechanism, and it's also how the table attaches to the uprights. And you get these two pieces, 3 bolts, washers, lock washers. These are serrated too by the edge so they catch nuts. And the piece goes on the outside with the bolt heads on the outside. Okay, so we snug these all down. These take a 14 on the nut and a 13 on the bolt head, millimeters. We're using the nuts and bolts and snugging it down for now. We'll put the whole thing together and then tack weld in addition any places. I'll probably put a couple tacks here and on the outside too. I'll still leave the nuts and bolts in, but tack it so that it doesn't move as much. Up and down pieces can go on either side and the back, but the fourth side actually only has 2 holes, and that's for the handle to go in. And look at the size of those holes and the size of this handle. I'm thinking this is one area where they skimped a little to make this model be able to be affordable for the price it is versus other makes, other names that look exactly like this. Now the end pieces we assembled, and those go on the inside like this, and you put the countersunk screws through and bolt it to here. The only thing I don't like about this, or the one area I can see for improvement, is because these are punched through, you actually have a raised section. So this whole piece isn't sitting flat against the tabletop like it could be. It's not sitting like that. It's raised up on these. So I would think one option is to figure out what this depth is and then put pieces in here to make it so that you're not always, you don't have that area a give. I'd rather have a solid piece for this. Now this will support 350, but again, and as I look for areas to improve this, that would be one of the things I would do, is I'd fill in this gap here with something. Now that I've got this partially assembled, you can see that gap I'm talking about. One possible solution is I do plan on, and here's the countersinks. Since I do plan on putting a plate, a stainless steel plate on top of this, that would cover these anyway. So one option is just to smash these down with a hammer, and then I can put this on and weld it all on. Okay, now that we have the tabletop assembled, we need to assemble the cross braces. And this is the parts that will slide up and down and that the rotators can attach to. And since the rotators have to attach to it, remember, or make note of the fact that one side, the bolts have to face out. The other side, the bolts have to face out the other way. So when you put the cross brace on, that fastens them, fastens the two together, make sure you have those out and that you don't assemble it this way, because then you won't be able to put those holes, those bolts through these holes. These are 10 millimeters, and then they're Phillips on the other side. You don't want to tighten these all the way down really snug, because there's some movement in here, and you want to have the whole thing assembled before you snug them down. That's why we wouldn't weld these yet either. Once it's all assembled and we know everything works smoothly, then we can put tack welds in. This would be another area too where could definitely improve the strength. I mean, you can see how that wiggles like that. So one option, a simple option, is just to get another piece like this. It doesn't even have to have the bend in it, but put it on the back side. Or you could get a piece of square tubing and notch it out so it fits over or butts up against, and just weld it here. Okay, so now this piece is ready. So we're up to 1, 2, 3, 4. Yay, we're going to the next page. Next thing up is assembling the legs. Okay, so to assemble the legs, you're going to need, there'll be 4 of them. 2 of this style, 2 of this style. Then there's these pieces that they attach to. And then the backing plates that look like this, but they're going to go on the inside. I guess they didn't paint them because they're going on the inside, so they're galvanized. And the difference between the legs, the angles are the same, these holes are the same, these holes are the same, these holes are the same, but you have these 2 extra holes here, and that's for the casters to attach to. So first we'll assemble this, and then we'll put the casters on. So one of each of the legs. Here's the other two that I haven't fastened yet. You can see the difference. It's pretty straightforward, I think, to see how they would go on, but you can put them together like this, and then the plate on the back side, just push those long screws through with a washer and the nut. Now these, you're not going to tighten down really tight because these need to be able to pivot, because that's how this table works, to collapse. So when you get this together like this, don't crank these down to try and get these to not move, because they're supposed to move. Okay, so that's one side. And just do the other side. So yeah, just put them together, drop that through. Drop that through. Flip it up. It's hard to do this when I'm holding the camera. Oh, you get the idea. Flip it up and over, and then put the plate on the other side. So the legs are assembled, partially assembled. And you have the slip feet that need to go on here. These were in a bag. There's 4 of them, along with these 2 clips that are going to help keep the legs, be able for the legs to stay in position and then spread apart and close up for transport. And then of course there's the 2 casters, and they'll go on those 2 extra holes I showed you. And all of this, well, these just slip on. The casters go on with those long screwed bolts again. There's 8 of them, 8 washers and 8 nuts. So there's the rubber feet slipped on, and they should be facing like this when they're on. Casters on, and you want to put the, according to their directions, you put the round heads on the here, and then the nuts and bolts go in between on the caster part. This is something I'll probably weld on too. I don't have to worry because there's a nut and bolt, so if we need to replace the wheels, we can, even if we weld this on here. Again, all this welding I'll do after I've used this a little bit and see if there's anything else I want to change. I don't want to weld it first and then find out I made a mistake. So we've completed step 5 and assembled these all together. Next thing is to put the braces that'll go across this way to add strength. That'll be these pieces. This is another area we can probably beef up later by adding extra ones. And you can see that here in step 6. So the bigger of the plates, the larger flat plate, goes on the side without the casters. Here's the casters. This goes on the other side. And again, you're putting the round heads out so they don't catch on anything. This is another area we could tack this up and make this more secure later on. So we put on the smaller one that goes up above, and with our nice little Vevor decal. Well, by the way, we don't get any kickback or anything from Vevor. We've bought quite a few of their products because we think their pricing is excellent. You get the free shipping and stuff. Sorry if that's a plug, but so far we've been very happy with what we've gotten from them. And when we call them on the phone, they respond. Okay, so again, here's 2 more of those long screws. I put them through. And if you notice, here's the one that we put on the other side. We still have holes here. We have holes there. So we could actually make another one of these and put it here. And again, that would even strengthen this more. So if we have one on, we had one of these on this side plus this, and then one of these on that side plus one of those on that side, That would really strengthen up this little guy. And part of the reasons why we did this instead of, I mean, you could have bought tubing and made all this, but the price of steel right now, there's no way you could even come close to getting all of this for the cost of buying a prefab kit that you put together. So we finished step 6, which is assembling the leg assembly. Putting the footsies and the casters on. Next thing we have to do is assemble this piece to these, and then once that's done, the whole tabletop can drop into the tubes on the legs. So we're on step 7, assembling the tabletop protractors, for lack of a better word, together. Now this is another area of the cost savings. What makes this not as sturdy or cost as much as the Nomads do, or the Eastwood. The Eastwood is basically the Nomad. Instead of having handles that you can easily screw in and tighten this up, this has wing nuts. Also, because of that, there's no big dentants to hold this in place. With the other ones, the handle, when it goes in, these are bigger notches and it screws in to hold it in place. Now there's no reason you can't do that and make that. These were just welded on, spot welded on, so I could easily grind these off and make that sort of arrangement. Put a nut here instead, and then put a bolt through with a shoulder on it and just notch these out more. But again, this is almost half the price of getting the Nomad. It's the same price as, for us it was anyway, as getting Harbor Freight's table without all of these adjustments. Well, our first big gotcha. We assembled this according to the drawings and put these on the outside of this, which fastens to this. And they're supposed to go with the indent in, because that's the only way they'll fit. However, this side is on and tight. This side, look at the gap we've got. I have to bend this quite a bit. That's a lot of distance. So what I'm going to try and do and see if it works is I'm going to take these off and put this on the inside of this, put that one on the inside of this, and that'll give us some take out some of that space, hopefully. So moving these to the inside of this, made a big difference. Almost got a tight fit. I put this one tight. I still got a fair amount though here. Could put washers in, but at least now I could get the nuts on. But this is an issue. It's this piece actually. So the best thing to do would be to redo this piece. Or redo this piece so that the legs are, so that these uprights are further apart. However, when I put this into the up and down, it's the perfect width. So there's definitely an issue here. There is enough room here that I actually now could add washers between here and here on both sides and make up this difference. but it's a problem. Situation though, part of the situation is because these are tacked in and they're a fixed size, so there's no room left here for me to put washers in there's no room here for me to put washers in between this to make up the gap. And you can see it's quite a bit of gap, so I can't just put washers in there, because if I do, I don't have enough thread to put the lock nuts on. So I've got to space this I have to space this in towards that. So the washers would have to be in here. And that takes away from some of the flat surface being against here. Again, I mean, I can fix all this with welds and stuff later. I'm just telling you this in case you're looking to buy in one of these. This is an issue. At least in this kit that we got, it definitely is. This piece needed to be longer. But then if it is, it's going to have trouble fitting in between these legs. So we put washer in here between this and this on all three, on both sides, and that made the gap here reasonable. There's still a little bit of a gap, but by moving this to the inside of this and putting a washer in there, this is pretty good. There's enough flex in the length of these that the legs fit over it okay. So temporarily this is okay, but again, either this piece needs to be replaced with a piece that's wider so that this fits without the washers and so that this can be on the outside. A piece would have to be made in here, or fabrication of some kind. Or you can leave it like this, but I'm probably going to do something with these anyway. For now, we have a semi-working table